What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have my first drift car I ever built and I ever had, which is this turbo E36, which I miss a lot. So the guy who bought it from me brought it back so I can install a start stop switch. We're gonna be eliminating the key and we're installing a push start button to eliminate all these problems, because the key keeps spinning in the ignition and you won't turn the car on. This is actually the spare key. Look how new this thing is. Probably never used. I actually had it here sitting at my house when he came. I was like, hey, by the way, I got a new key here that I never gave you. So long story short, it doesn't, it keeps spinning in the ignition, so we can't turn the car on, right? Just spinning freely. That happens because the shaft inside just breaks off and it keeps spinning and it doesn't have any contact to the switch here. Another thing that I'm going to show you guys how to do is how to bypass, because 94 and up, they have this magnet switch here, which the key has a chip inside and that reads the chip. So if the key is not in that magnetic field and the car doesn't see the chip, it's not going to allow the car to start. So I'm going to show you guys how to bypass this and how to bypass the clutch switch as well, because this car only starts when you have your pedal down on the clutch. So I'm going to show you how to bypass those two as well and how to eliminate the EWS. It's a very simple trick I use, and I'm going to show you the key here that's open. Here's the chip. As you can see here, the chip is inside. What people usually do is they open the key, they get that chip out, and they just tape it to the magnetic field. But I'm going to show you how to just completely just eliminate it. I love this car. This car was really, really good when I built it and still is. You haven't had any problems with the car. It's got a short shifter, body mounted. When I sold it to him, I had brand new brakes, brand new rotors, brand new pads, brand new wheel bearings, you name it. I replaced everything in this car because I was planning to keep this car. And I happened to sell it because I'm building myself an E46, which I have a bunch of parts here sitting. Got the wide body, I got some tail lights, I got suspension, angle kit, brand new windshield, got the motor all apart, got pistons for the motor. Anyways, this is another video. You guys probably seen it already. I had to put the money from this car into that car because I wasn't able to keep both cars at the same time. So I had to let this one go, unfortunately. This car is really, really good. It's a little bit dirty here. We're gonna be cleaning it up for him. We're gonna clean all those leaves up. I'm charging the battery for him as well. He's probably gonna need a battery, but I'm charging the one that's here. Yeah, this thing was amazing, 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 amazing. We got E46 M3 oil filter housing, which has the cooler lines, and I added oil, aftermarket oil cooler when I built the car to the bash bar. As you guys can see, the bash bar, the brackets holding up the intercooler. I got extra fans here for the radiator. This car never overheated after I was having a lot of problems with Mishimoto radiator, and I installed this radiator, which is stock, thinner than the Mishimoto one, and the air flows through it and cools down the antifreeze a lot faster than the Mishimoto one. It's just faster flow and it cools down a lot faster. So this car was a very nice build, very nice build. I built this thing with love, and as you guys can see, the headlights, brand new headlights, and bumper. I put a lot of money into this. Brand new turbo, like everything you see, pretty much all the parts that I put on the car are brand new parts. Stainless steel, full exhaust, all the way back. And I want to show you guys my garage as well. I always like to show my garage. As you guys can see, I did the M colors. It's a little bit tight, but for me, working one car at a time, I have everything I need. It's a little bit tight, but I don't put a second car here. I only work in one car at a time. Got my little car collection here, my products, my tools, my computer, much needed. And this is one of my new additions to this collection corner. You guys probably know who he is. Senna is one of the greatest F1 drivers ever, and he happens to be Brazilian as well, which makes me really proud. And I had to have this. I saw it on Amazon and I thought it was really cool because this car is one of my favorite cars he ever drove, competed, along with the helmet. So I had to have this. Just a nice little addition. All right, guys, so you guys ready? Let's get to getting rid of the charger, and I'm going to show you guys how to bypass the EWS. so you can turn the car on without the key, and how to start the car without putting your pedal down on the clutch. So let's go to the wiring. At the switch, you cut the main wire. There's one wire that's going to be live no matter what. It's the red wire that's coming from the battery. So you're going to have battery source at this wire, which is supplying the switch, and then the switch supplies all the relays for the ignition on and for the starter. So now, if you want to see how many amperage you're drawing just from the switch alone, because there's a lot of options out there when you're buying a switch, so you want to know how many amps switch you need, because you don't want to put a too small switch and that switch is going to be overheating and could potentially cause a fire. So you don't want that to happen. You want to get the right switch, and to know the right amperage switch, you're going to use a meter. You're going to connect the black wire where the black wire goes, and you're gonna see the one that says A. So what you do is the red wire that I cut, you're gonna connect one lead to the red wire that we cut, and the other lead is gonna go to where that wire was connected. So you're gonna use the meter in between the wire and where it connects to, right? So that amperage is gonna go in the meter, it's gonna read, and it's gonna tell us how much amps we're drawing. So right now I'm just gonna leave the key on the on position here at the switch. So it's on the on position, just so I don't have to, hold both leads and then turn the key, because it's going to be kind of impossible. I'll need the alligator clips, but I want to show you guys like what you see here. So right now the ignition is on, but how I explained earlier, the wire is cut, so it's not going to supply the power to the switch. So I'm going to give continuity with my leads so we see how many amps we're drawing. So I don't know if you guys were able to see here. We're drawing 35 amps, roughly, 35 some change, with the ignition on, without the car being started yet. So with ignition on, we're drawing that much power because there's a fuel pump that's running, there's the fan that's running. The fan is being controlled by a relay, so it's not really like straight from the ignition. The ignition is just activating that relay. Relay clicks, and then it activates. Relay, it's kind of like two switches. It's like a smaller switch turning a bigger switch on. So the smaller switch, which comes from ignition or any small switch, goes to the relay, turns the relay on, and then the bigger switch kicks on, which is higher amperage, which is, what we're gonna need here for the key on position, because the key on position is drawing 35 amps. So if we put a 10 amp switch in between to put the ignition on, we're just gonna burn that switch. That switch is gonna be overloaded, because usually switches are rated for 10-20 amps max, and we're not gonna put a huge switch here, so it makes no sense. We're just gonna put a small switch just to kick that relay on, maybe a 10 amp switch, kicks the relay on. Relay usually 40 amps will do the job, because we're drawing 35. So we're just gonna turn that relay on. The relay kicks on, it's gonna put the ignition on, which is two wires, the green and the purple wire is ignition on, and the black and yellow wire is for the starter. But the starter one is gonna be separate, because you're gonna turn the ignition on, right? You're gonna turn the switch on, switch goes to the relay, turns the key on, and then the push start is gonna be for the starter. I now have the switch out of place. So just to recap here, you're going to, if you want to do the draw test, you're gonna cut like I did here, and you're gonna put your leads in between the power wire and where that power wire goes. But since I already did the test, you don't need to do it, because I already did it for you, and it draws 35 amps, the green and purple wire. Those two wires are gonna be connected together when you install your relay. I'm not gonna go through all that, how you install a relay or whatever. If you wanna look that up, how to install a relay, how to wire a relay. So you're gonna wire a relay, and the two main wires, the power supply from the relay coming out of the relay, is gonna go to those two wires. You're gonna connect those two together, purple and green, and you could use this for the other side of the relay coming in and those coming out. And then the switch for the starter is going to be the black and yellow wire. So you're just gonna apply power in one side of the switch, and on the other side of the switch you're gonna put the black and yellow wire. And now the two little brown, the small little wires, the brown and the blue one, you're not going to use those two. They just stay out of the equation, and you're just gonna use those 3 wires. So that being said, that's how you install your switch. That's what you need to know, what those wires are and what side you need to put the relay. Again, purple and green, black and yellow is for the switch. You don't need a relay on that side because it only draws 6.5 amps. 10 or 20 amp switch would do you just fine on that black and yellow wire, which supplies to the starter relay. So it already has a relay for you. This is your relay. So you're gonna be eliminating this, and you'll be installing a new relay. So now let's go to the EWS, and I'll show you guys how to bypass the clutch pedal and the magnet for the key. So you're just gonna bypass that. You're no longer gonna use this. You're no longer gonna need a key in between here, the magnetic field, in order to start the car and have the car running. So let's go to the EWS and bypass. Okay guys, so the EWS seats underneath here, right in that box. So you can see the empty space where I'm shining my light. That's where the EWS sits. So here's the EWS. So what the EWS does, it's basically a switch that tells the modules that we have signal from the clutch pedal. The clutch pedal is being pressed. We have the key. The magnet key is in place, and then it allows power to go to the starter and start the car. But now if it doesn't see those two, it's not going to allow that switch inside the unit is not going to open in order for the electricity to flow through. That being said, so the wires that you have to bypass are the thicker wires that you're gonna see on the connector. The thickest wires that you see on the connector, which is the one that we saw on the switch there, is a black and yellow wire. So that comes from the switch, right, and applies power to that switch. And from that switch, it goes to the starter relay, which is the black and green. So as you can see, those wires are thicker, black and yellow, black and green. Different cars might be different colors. So you're just gonna go on the EWS, make sure you pull the EWS out, make sure you read the correct unit. EWS, as you guys can see, this is the EWS2, which requires the key in place in order for the car to start. So you just remove that, and you're going to connect the two thicker wires to the EWS together. Like I say, colors might be different from car to car, so you just connect those two. I have this bypass wire that I made just for testing stuff, and it's right in there. But you could pull those two wires out and connect them together, and that will bypass and work without the key and without the clutch being pressed. Okay, so another thing that I forgot to mention, guys, you have to take this piece off in order to remove the steering lock, because it stays locked, right, if you don't remove. So you have to remove the steering wheel. There's a clip behind the hub, so you're gonna take that clip out. And there's 2 bolts up top, so you're gonna take those bolts out as well. They're anti-theft bolts. They don't have a head, so you have to use a chisel and a hammer and easily hammer them out. So you hammer towards like you're taking them out, right, towards the left, and they'll come out. It's a little bit of a pain, but they'll come out. Once you take them out, to take this whole piece out of the steering column, and there's 2 pieces inside of it, and you're going to take those 2 metal pieces out and reinstall it back. So you're removing the steering lock. All right, guys, so I put it down here. You guys can see, found a nice little spot for it. Key used to be here, so he's gonna be used to the same location, right? Just no key needed. And I took the lock out of the key, so the steering wheel is no longer locking like it was before. So here, I put the key on. Everything comes on. Fan on a separate line. Not like it used to be with the key on, everything on directly. He wants to have a separate switch, so we added that switch for him, just for the fan. Me personally, I like to have everything on so you don't forget to put the fan on or anything on, but it's just a matter of getting used to it. So ignition on, right? Ignition off. Ignition on, and we start. Peace out.